Salutations, people of the internet. Welcome to the database. By the time this video releases, Sonic the Hedgehog is at a midst of celebrating its anniversary. And I mentioned way back during my Road to Sonic Origins video, I'll be saving Sonic Mania as its own video for an anniversary date. Until now. Sonic Mania serves to celebrate Sonic's 25th anniversary back in 2017. One of two major titles to celebrate the anniversary of the Blue Bird was Sonic Mania, released on all current generation platforms at the time. The other major Sonic title was just mid-dog water trash. That's like 2 mentions of the trash game in 2 videos. I'm not doing it, I swear to God. Sonic Mania was made by a team of Sonic fans who had previously worked on their own fan-made Sonic projects in the past. The first is Christian Whitehead, who has previously worked on porting Sonic's 1, 2, and CD onto mobile devices. And Sonic CD was the only one that got a console PC release. No worries, all 3 of them are uniformly found within Sonic Origins. You can check that video out right here. Then there was Pagoda West Games and Headcanon, the other 2 teams that work on the game. Now, Pagoda I personally don't know much about upon research, but Headcanon, aka Simon Stealth Tomley, worked on a functioning port of the Sonic Genesis Game Boy Advance game. I have a copy of that here. I'm not really proud of it. During the build-up and release, Sonic Mania was advertised as a celebration of Sonic's 2D classic platformers that launched the franchise towards success in the early 90s. And while games such as the Sonic Advance and Sonic Rush trilogies helped bring back Sonic's 2D platformers into the modern age, none of those trilogies compared to the philosophy and groundwork that the classic Genesis Sonic games provided. That's why I originally wanted to include Mania during the Road to Sonic Origins, but it's never too late to make an episode about it. How does Sonic Mania uphold the legacy of the classic era of Sonic games during the Sega Genesis? Do many of the stages that the game brought back benefited from some of the changes that game improved? What are the new things Sonic Mania offered that the other classic games don't? Let's speed blast our way through Sonic Mania and find out. The game starts with Sonic and Tails returning to Angel Island as they investigate a mysterious energy source. Upon arrival, they spotted an army of egg robos as they dug up the mysterious gemstone that transports them to Green Hill Zone. The egg robos were later transformed into the hard-boiled Heavies, the new group of baddies for this game. Throughout the game, thanks to the powers of the mysterious gemstone, the Phantom Ruby, players will go through familiar stages like Green Hill from Sonic 1 and Chemical Plant and Oil Ocean from Sonic 2, as well as 4 new stages spread across a total of 12 stages, or zones, my bad. And while there are new things happening in 8 of the returning stages, I'll save some time and look over the 4 new stages instead. This way, it's best not to spoil the adventure of the entire game, with the exceptions of clips seen here in this video. Kicking things off is the first new stage of the game, the 3rd stage overall, Studiopolis Zone. This stage is a fan favorite by many Sonic fans, right down to the newly arranged music. All the music composed in this game is done by T. Lopes, who had some experience in music for a very long time. Outside from Sonic, he also provided a theme song from YouTuber Some Call Me Johnny, a personal favorite YouTuber of mine among others. As for the stage itself, I like this stage too. The vibrant neon city landscape of Act 1 is beautiful, and both acts are filled with tons of references. From the Genesis model, Welcome to the Next Level, to the static sound effect at the end of Studiopolis stage, which is actually taken from the live event that celebrated Sonic's anniversary. Next for the new stages is Press Garden Zone. And this is an interesting aesthetic set piece for a Sonic stage. Act 1 starts you off in a newspaper press factory filled with conveyor belts and the formally cut ink bunny badniks that were originally supposed to be in Sonic 1. Then Act 2 sends you to this beautiful winter landscape filled with cherry blossoms and ice obstacles. And it's here where we learn about Dr. Robotnik's plan of using the Phantom Ruby to take over Little Planet from Sonic CD. Up next is Mirage Saloon Zone. where we get the returning sequence of the Tornado auto-scroller. There is even an Act 1 boss within that auto-scroller. However, if you're playing as Knuckles, you get something different. He gets his very own stage of Mirage Saloon Act 1, where it's a traditional Sonic stage catered for Knuckles' climbing and gliding abilities. In fact, there are several sections within the returning stages that are more suited to Knuckles exclusively, making his campaign a bit more unique and challenging than Sonic and Tails. When you see them, you'll see them. Also, there's returning appearances from Fang the Sniper, Bark the Polar Bear, and Bean the Dynamite, obscure characters in the Sonic universe. Do anybody care about these guys? Well, Fang the Sniper last appeared in Sonic Triple Trouble, and Bark the Polar Bear and Bean the Dynamite were last seen in Sonic Fighters, an arcade fighting game. Finally, the last new zone of the game, and the last traditional stage overall, Titanic Monarch Zone. Both acts of the zone feel very long to finish, most likely because of my own skill to speedrun the game. These feature these electric balls from Sonic 3K bonus stages that make the return, and even the Act 1 boss is a return from Sonic 3K. The second act is probably a bit longer, when you go through a series of segmented areas to reach the boss, and if you fall off the stage, the Phantom Ruby sends you back to the nearest starting point of the stage. That's fun. After beating the Talking Egg, and if you manage to nab out a Chaos Emerald beforehand, you are gifted to the unique Supersonic stage, where you face Eggman and the leader of the Hardboiled Heavies in a 2-on-1 bout for the Phantom Ruby. Sonic stops the egg and the robot and awakens the Phantom Ruby that frees Little Planet and sends Sonic to the storyline of Sonic Forces, where he becomes so useless. I'm not looking forward to Sonic Forces. And that was Sonic Mania, at least the new stuff anyway. I'll go over what's been changed and added to the returning Sonic stages in the next segment. But for now, I like the new exclusive stages in Mania. All 4 of them offer unique experiences that have not yet been done during the classic era of Sonic in the 90s, while also reintroducing familiar concepts within some of those new stages. Speaking of reintroductions, that's what I'll be going over next. So Sonic Mania only has 4 stages that are brand new out of 12. That means 8 of those stages are returning stages from the classic Sonic games. Representing Sonic 1, we got Green Hill Zone, and that's it. The perfect first stage in a Sonic game, despite how overused the aesthetic became in games that came before it. Keep in mind, the returning stages try to use familiar level structures and mix them into a stage design that's still fresh. Example here, Act 1 of Green Hill in this game uses stage designs from Green Hill Act 1 and 2 from the original, while Green Hill Act 2 in this game use stage design from the original's Act 3. Green Hill also ends with the Death Egg robot, the final boss from Sonic 2, who's now less menacing than the original. Representing Sonic 2, we have Chemical Plant and Oil Ocean zones. Unlike the original game, the water and chemical plant was never an issue. Unless you're going for that one special ring that is in the water, you probably won't touch it at all, if you're skilled enough. The end boss for this zone is a match against Robotnik in Puyo, a Sega puzzle game that is commonly known as Kirby's Avalanche on the Super Nintendo, and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine on the Genesis here in the West. Oil Ocean, on the other hand, well, like I mentioned in my Sonic 2 video, I don't have a lot to say about this zone again, other than that you can use Fire Elemental Shield to set the stage on fire. I know a certain YouTuber that's happy about that. I mean, I guess I do like the transition between the stage of this stage to Lava Reef Zone as we travel to the next stage with a submarine. In fact, a lot of these stages here have transition that sees our heroes naturally progress to the next stage without relying on the game fading to black. Representing Sonic CD, we have Stardust Speedway and Metallic Madness. For Act 1, the game uses assets from the past version of Stardust Speedway, while Act 2 uses assets from the stage's Good Future, as seen in the stage transition after destroying the generator and passing through the future sign. The boss here is not just against Metal Sonic, but the version of Metal Sonic seen in Knuckles Chaotix. In fact, speaking of Knuckles Chaotix, one of the monitor items in this game is a combined ring that lets you collect rings in a large batches if you lose them. The Silver Sonic's metal launches at you are ripped from Sonic Game Gear game, the 8-bit version of Sonic 2. Like Oil Ocean, I don't have a lot to say about Metallic Madness Zone, other than it being a tough stage to move around as Sonic. However, I would say otherwise to the game's boss fight. The first act boss is the final boss from Sonic 1 that also has a new attack pattern come phase 2. While the second act boss is filled with references as the Egghead releases miniature versions of the bosses from Sonic 1's Marble Zone, Sonic 2's Emerald Hill Zone, and a remote-controlled Amy, which I guess, given the antenna, is supposed to be a reference to the Tails doll from Sonic R, I don't know. Representing Sonic 3 and Knuckles, we have Flying Battery, Hydra City, and Lava Reef Zone. Flying Battery being one of my favorite Sonic 3K stages in the game, so you know how excited I was to see this stage. I love how the stage uses the elemental shield and designs stage portions around it for quicker travel and for hidden secrets. And the second act sees you traveling in and out of the flying ship with different stage layouts. If you're traveling down below, for example, you'll see tons of electrical hazards you need to avoid, while the top portion sees you flying against the wind. I got nothing for this stage's boss other than Eggman's model looking sus. Hydra City Zone is just as fun as Flying Battery Zone, and even more fun to speed through. You can travel upwards with a bubble similar to the Game Gear games. The Act 2 boss sees Eggman piloting the same contraption as the mid-level boss from the original game, but the first act boss sees you actually piloting the Eggmobile for the first time ever. That's so cool. And then Lava Reef Zone. Now, getting to the zone and transitioning into the next zone is cool, especially with the establishing shot of Little Planet in the background. And this is one of 4 fights that I forgot to mention where you face off against one of the members of the hard-boiled Heavies. And they're alright. Personality-wise, it's probably non-existent, but it's their designs and what helped make them stand out. Some of the features that this game provides is the all-new special stages that look like they came straight out of a Sega Saturn game, and I love these stages. The goal is to catch up to the UFO from Sonic CD, who's holding a Chaos Emerald. Your time limit is based on the number of rings you have in your disposal. While you can collect those to increase your time, you can also collect blue orbs to increase your speed. It's a matter of prioritizing what to collect next as you run closer to the UFO across these polygonal Sega Saturn-like stages that are appeasing to gaze at. As mentioned earlier, all 4 types of shields introduced during the Genesis era all make their return here. The shield from Sonic 1, 2, and CD, as well as the elemental shields from Sonic 3K, all function as such as the original. Speaking of Sonic 3K, when passing through a checkpoint, the bonus stage this time around are the Blue Spur challenges, where completing them rewards you with a silver medal and perfectly completing them gets you a gold medal. These medals unlock special features in the game. These include a DA garden that serves as your sound test section of the game, more Blue Spur challenges with all new remixes made for Sonic Mania, and the Puyo Puyo minigame from Chemical Plant Act 2. You basically connect 4 of the same colors together to send garbage Puyo to your opponent. Getting a chain of Puyo will let you send a large amount of garbage. Simple. If I were to connect this to anything like how my channel goes around here, Puyo Puyo did cross over with Tetris and made 2 games about it that somehow features original characters too. You can also unlock the ability to change Sonic's moves to something similar to how he played in Sonic CD with the Peel Out and Sonic 3K with the Insta Shield, along with other easily accessible features like debug mode and yes, a Knuckles option, where Knuckles becomes your tag-along partner at all times. God damn it, the meme is complete.
Meme! Approved!
Aside from time attack mode for all you speedrunners and competition mode for multiplayer, that's about it for Sonic Mania in terms of features and unlockables. Also in the options, you can change the video quality of your game to a CTR filter, much like how TV screens were in the 90s, which I barely use, as the video quality is set to clean default makes the game look already appealing as it is. While you don't really get anything from 100% completion of Sonic Mania, there are tons of things to do outside the main game that you might find interesting. When purchasing the Sonic Mania Plus DLC, you're gifted to Encore mode, that are basically harder versions of the existing 12 zones you've already visited. There are also harder versions of those special stages which, I don't bother with those cause they're fucking hard. Not only that, but the locations of finding these special rings are also in new locations, so you're better off finding a guide. Also, upon buying the DLC, comes in 2 new characters that made their playable debut in a 2D Sonic game. Ray the Flying Squirrel, who made his debut in the arcade Sonic game 1986's SegaSonic the Hedgehog, and Mighty the Armadillo, who was last seen in Knuckles Chaotix, a spin-off that was exclusive to Sonic's failed Genesis add-on, the Sega 32X. These characters are made from the ground up and are given new movesets to work with. Ray the Flying Squirrel plays very similar to the Cape Feather ability from Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo, where upon pressing a jump button in mid-air, Ray can swoop through the air at high speeds, perfect for speedrunning levels. Mighty the Armadillo is an interesting case. Using his armadillo shell, he can bounce off of spike hazards, and when pressing the button in mid-air, Mighty slams down on the ground, able to break objects below and destroying enemies around him. You find both of these characters as you open up Encore mode. The story begins as you sent back to Angel Island Zone through the same portal from the end of the main story. Haha, Sonic Forces can suck a dick, and you actually play through a small portion of Angel Island Zone this time around, rather than having the stage and music be reserved only for cutscenes. Upon rescuing Mighty and Ray within a capsule, we're reintroduced to the hard-boiled Heavies, who have reawakened thanks to the Phantom Ruby, and it's up to our 5 main heroes to stop them once again. I never bother finishing Encore mode because, like I said, the emeralds were hard to get in this mode. So let's wrap it up from here. And that was Sonic Mania, a great nostalgia trip of the classic 2D Sonic games, while also a game that tries to bring something new to the table. The new stages are amazing additions to the lineup of classic Sonic stages, though the DLC included a Tough as Nails Encore mode that a lot of people probably won't play. It does give us the return of 2 obscure Sonic characters that are given a new fresh coat of paint thanks to this new gameplay style and sprite models. My grade for Sonic Mania as a whole package, including the Mania Plus DLC, is a solid A. What prevents this game from being an A+ is the Encore mode campaign offering nothing new compared to the regular story mode. Aside from playing story mode as all 5 characters 6 times that include Sonic and Tails, there isn't a whole lot to unlock aside from a sound test, debug configurations, and 2 sub-games. Another reason why this isn't a perfect A+ was the amount of returning stages there were, compared to only having 4 original stages. It makes sense because this was made to celebrate Sonic's 25th anniversary, but a part of me wishes there were a couple more original Sonic stages instead of just 4 out of 12. But at least to make up for originality, the returning stages offer a mix of memorable landmarks that are familiar for longtime Sonic fans, as well as new stage layouts that keep the stages new and fresh to revisit. And hey, this product did a great job of celebrating Sonic's anniversary than its 3D counterpart the same year. So what do you guys think of Sonic Mania? What were your favorite stages in the game? Do you like the original stages and the return of Ray and Mighty? Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to thumbs up the video if you like it, subscribe to the database, and follow me on social media as seen above. I'm Christopher James, and I'll see you next time.